Welcome to the Hope, Health, and Healing Podcast. I am Michelle Hannah Fields, and I am your host for episode 21, where we begin part 2 of the conversation with my friend Alisha Munden as she is sharing her incredible story. In this episode, she talks about being a single mom and how God guided, how He provided, and how He redeems your story and breaks generational curses and chains, and what healing has looked like for her. She also shares with us how walking through that childhood trauma contributed to a life of binge eating and other addictive issues, and how God has brought her health and really helped her in this season of life to take control of those things. She's still working towards better health and helping others, and that is really helping hold her accountable and give her the tools that she needs to continue on her health journey. She says that by working on her health, it helps her to be her best self. Now sit back, relax with your favorite cup of coffee or beverage of your choice, and let Alisha's story encourage you today. Said you were a young mom. How did you feel, or how can you look back and see God being with you during that time of your life too?
Oh gosh. So, it's many ways, so many ways. So first of all, I was a young mom and I was single. Then I met Justin when she was 2.5. Sometimes I'd say 3.5, and sometimes he says 2.5. We don't really know. We don't really know. And that detail doesn't matter. All it matters is I met him, and he adopted her, and then of course raised her, and he adores her. He adores her, and of course he does. But all in all, the Lord was really with me. I was single, and I was working all the time and going to beauty school, and He provided the entire time. I don't, and what's crazy is I don't remember all the details there. That was a time in my life that was really so. Well, I'll finish. That was really dealing with a lot of the trauma that I had been through. I can't say that I was dealing with it. I was really wrestling with so much fear. I was in this mama bear protection mode of this child, and I was just really, I was mothering out of a spirit of fear, which just really, well, it was just not good. I mean, it was just not good. I was scared. I was full of anxiety, and all of those things. And so, I don't know. I would say even that there's some things that I don't remember, and that's probably the protection of the Lord. Those feelings, and it's a spot that, with the exception of my daughter being a newborn baby and getting the do-over, but it's a spot that I'd never want to go back to. And so it seemed like it was a really dark time. My mother did help me a lot. My grandmother, my grandparents were a huge sounding board in my life. And my grandpa came to know the Lord in his 60s. Oh, wow. And well, he was probably 50 and he died at 67. So he, when he caught the love of Jesus, he spread it everywhere. And I just happened to be a great recipient of that, because I was the little baby bird with a broken wing. They were helping me. They came to my rescue a lot. My mom did too. And so, just, I know that the Lord was there. That was the times that he was, I took McKay to church because I wanted something. I knew what I wanted for our life. I didn't know exactly what that looked like and how it was going to happen. I probably was looking for a husband, if I'm being honest, because that's not where I found one. But either way, that's probably what I was looking for. Is everybody, we dressed up, and everybody went to church on Sunday. That's what we did. and Wednesday. And so, I can just remember that the Lord, the carrying us through. And I will tell you that after prayer and supplications and all the things, I do think that, um, McKay is the first generation, uh, you know, that that did not, her marriage was pure, and, um, all the steps were ordered, and not that you can't be forgiven and move through all of that. Absolutely. Yes, I'm a testament to that. Um, but I knew that I wanted something different for my baby, and I was 19 years old. And so my Aunt Beverly did hair, and she said, "Girl, we're gonna wrap it up. You're going to beauty school, and you're gonna work with me." And so
Yeah.
that's how I got into it. And so my grandparents really helped me a lot, but the Lord was very sovereign with me. And I always said I made a lot of choices based off of the things that happened to me in my life. But now I will take full responsibility for the moral code of knowing what is right and what is wrong, and repenting for those things, and being at peace with the repentance, and not holding myself to a prison of guilt and shame. I did that long enough, and it did not serve me at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And so I really know that the Lord was just, uh, ever so present, ever
Mhm.
so present. You know what's funny is because whenever Avi was born, my grandbaby, I got to spend, a little time over there, spend the night, and I was reliving. I was taking the midnight shift and reliving some of those late night hours, and I just would hold her, and look at her, and just, you know, there I can't really say that I was just praying over this baby's life, but I was looking at her and just thinking
Yeah.
how different of a scene it was when she was born, and how different of um, of a chain breaker she would be.
Yeah.
She was the first generation born out of my hard work that was not exposed to chaos. I exposed Michaela to chaos because I was going through all of that. And and then this baby was not has not is not and possibly will never be exposed to that. I
And I think,
believe.
yeah, I believe that. And, I believe that you were the one instrumental in breaking that generational curse, because you did, if you look at, McKay's life, like maybe she was born into some chaos,
Yeah.
but your mannerisms and what you did as a mom put that foundation in her to where she saw what a good Christian home looked like, a good foundation, the moral code to live by, and so you modeled that for her. And that's why now, like, she's the first generation. And so that began with you, the hard work that you did. It's a testament now to McKay's life and now your grandbaby's life, and so that generational curse, that generational issue, it's broken now because you did that hard work, and you surrendered that to the Lord. And there may be pieces of it that you don't want to go back and visit, and God says, hey, that's okay. Like, you don't have to go back and visit that. And one of the things that I heard a sermon one time, and it just was so profound to me. Is one of my good friends is an evangelist, and I heard her preaching on God's grace, and she was saying the enemy, all of us have this closet of our past where our sins are, things that were done to us, like they're all in there. Like, Jesus forgives us and God chooses to remember it no more, but there's this closet of our past. But the enemy likes to go, God doesn't go in there, but the enemy likes to go in there, rummage around, and pull things out and show you. And, she said, but we have Jesus and we have the blood of Jesus, and all we have to do is say, look, like all I see is the blood of Jesus. You know, there's no condemnation because of the work that was done for me on the cross, and Jesus is my savior. And so I love that, you know, we don't have to go back and revisit those places because we've given them to the Lord. And I think, you know, when we allow God to do that healing, like he'll heal those places that we never go back and visit.
Sure.
Sometimes it takes time, sometimes it takes us working on other things, and then sometimes it takes us surrendering and saying, you know, just like you said, you walked through and you confronted your accuser, that was part of that hard work you had to do for some of those places you may never visit.
Right.
But that hard work was breaking that ground, that soil, so that God could come in and heal that. You know, it was your act of surrender. Okay, God, I'm dealing with this. And so in surrender, in giving him that, then he's able to come in and heal that place in your heart. He's able to heal those places. And so, you know, I think it's wise that you say, you know, there are places that I'm not going to go back and visit. You know, there's no need to visit there. Um, and God will heal those even if you don't go back and visit those places. And you know, it's just that act of surrender. And I've seen that in my own life, just those wounds. 2 years ago, I was working with Dave Blanchard, and you know, during that 6 months, you know, I thought I was all right. And you know, in that 6 month period, he's peeling back this onion, you know, and he has me crying at every turn. And one of the last sessions, after I had my session, and one of the things I've dealt with my whole life is rejection. Just that pain of rejection. And so just building those walls up so that, you know, if I don't let you in, I can't be hurt by you. And, you know, that kind of thing. And what I heard the Lord tell me was it's time to take that band-aid off. You put a band-aid over those hurts. It's time to rip the band-aid off so I can heal it. And I remember, like, when I walked through some of those things I walked through, I did. I would just kind of cover it up, be like, you know, I'm good. You know, I'm good. But I didn't want to see that wound, and I didn't want other people to know I had a wound. And so I put this bandage over it. But when I surrendered that, you know, and what God means by ripping the Band-Aid off is surrendering. And so when I rip that Band-Aid off, when I surrender that hurt to him, then he can come in and heal those places. And, you know, you know, I realized that unless I had walked through that, I would not have been ready for Doug to come into my life. And so, you know, I think it's God's timing, God's way, his graciousness, but there comes a time when he's like, okay, you've got to hand that to me. So like, you know, even if there's things you don't want to look at, you don't want to dig up and look at, you can still surrender and say, God, you know, there's this place and I'm not going back there, but I'm giving it to you. And then he'll heal those places.
That I love that too. And what I have learned in a healing journey for, decades is that, you can it's almost like you get healed from one thing and or a certain situation or a certain offense or whatever the situation is, a hurt. Um and then over time it just continues to keep healing. It's kind of like physical therapy. You have surgery, usually, that's usually how that goes, an injury or a surgery. And every time you go to physical therapy, it's almost like you get a new hurt, but one thing doesn't hurt, but the next thing hurts because you're working on all the things that you have overcompensated with over the years. It's really your hip that hurts, but it hurts all the way down to your big toe. It's because, you've been walking funny for all these years and adapting and learning how to live life off the hurt and survive. And then when you start dealing with the hip, because that was the original issue, and then you can start taking those other things, just stage by stage by stage by stage by stage. And then and then sometimes we have to keep it up, because I say receiving a healing and keeping a healing is two different things. You've got to continue to walk in that and continue to grow and nourish,
Mhm.
nourish not even from the physical point. I mean, at the physical point, but nourishing those muscles and continuing to build good bone strength and things. It doesn't just go away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so
And the enemy will come back to you, and like in other situations, you know, you can it's like we say in our coaching, like you inspect what you expect or expect what you inspect, and then what you focus on grows. And so sometimes I've been in a situation where I walk into a room expecting something to happen and it doesn't, and it triggers that old hurt.
Mhm.
And so then you focus on that, and that's what the enemy wants you to do. The enemy wants you to focus on, okay, well, if so and so doesn't speak to me, then they've rejected me, or if this happens, then it's just the same old stuff that's always happened to me. And so the enemy, he's going to use that, and so like you said, you have to continue that healing process and realize, no, that's not right. Like, I know that person, and this is how I do it. I know that person's heart. That person would never hurt me.
Yeah.
And but the enemy's going to come to you and say, oh, look what they just did to you, and taunt you with that. And you're like, no, but I've been healed there. And it's a process, and you have to continue to let God, like you said, heal those places and heal those hurts. And like you said, when you get one, and you're like, okay, well, I'm good there, then something else God reveals, okay, now we're going to work on that. And it's the same with your faith journey. Like when you come to faith in Jesus, he's not gonna he's gracious, and he lets you work on one thing at a time. you
Such a
know,
gentleman, such a gentleman,
yeah, just one, let's change this. And then once we get that, once we get that under control, then he's going to reveal something else that we need to work on. And so, it's that ever evolving journey with the Lord. Let me ask you this, just to kind of, because I know this is something that a lot of people have dealt with when you have trauma. How did the trauma affect you in your physical health? What did that look like for you?
So, well, as far as how I responded off of that is I was a binge eater, bad. I was obese for 27 years, and always a little overweight. Was obese for 27 years. And there was times in my life where I'd lose some weight, and then, I wasn't really working on things uh, deep and spiritual, and then I would binge and quickly gain it back. Um, I didn't take care of myself at all. I smoked, and which just sounds so crazy to me now.
Yeah, I would have never pictured that.
I know. And anyways, and so, it really put a lot of strain on my body, not only because of the weight of being obese, but also just, the unhealthy and the behaviors that I was having. Um, I would say, I wouldn't say I was clinically depressed, just because I think that was the Lord's protection. But I would say that I would get down and have those kind of physical responses from being depressed or shamed, or just being embarrassed for the way that I looked, and felt. Not necessarily I looked, because I always thought I was cute, even big, but I didn't feel good. And so um I didn't present myself in my actions very well. And so the only the only reason I got healthy at first was because I had some medical issues, and I had a friend who died in her sleep that had the same medical issues that I was diagnosed with. So I knew that it was very real. And I knew that my health was could be fatal. I mean, because of her situation.
How
Uh,
old were you at that time?
40, 42 or 43. Yeah, 40, pretty young.
Very young. Mhm.
42 or 43. And so, you know, I I really struggled a long time with my weight, a long time. I was I was up and down, and then I was also very extreme. I wouldn't just gain back 10 pounds, I'd gain 100 back. Or, I don't think I've never been a 100-pound loser until the last 5 years. But in the years prior, it would be, 60, 70 pounds and gain it back
Mhm.
super fast. And
Yeah.
so, but that was because of the binge eating.
Mhm.
And and I really, it's funny because I cannot articulate with words like what I felt. But
Mhm.
to me, that's such a plan of the enemy too, Michelle, because I can't tell you like, oh, I can now, but I can't tell you, oh, I heard a song on the radio and it took my mind back to this. And then so I would just eat something else, or or something was going on, or I received a phone call and was triggered, and how I would just immediately just start. And
Mhm.
it wasn't like I would go like this, oh, I think I'm going to binge eat today. It wasn't that. It was never, just not being satisfied, eating more, eating more, eating more. And really, I think about the physical part of it, like your stomach is only so big. Even stretched out, it's only so big. I mean, like physically, you should not be able to consume as much as I was consuming. And anyway, and so I know that the physical part of it was really, really hard on me.
Mhm.
And, you know, outside of the weight that
Mhm.
ever on the scale. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, just trauma in general, and knowing what you've been through, there's a weight you carry around. Not physical weight, but there's a weight you carry around. And so, I think, not having a trigger, it could have just been that weight that was weighing on you, and you're trying desperately to find something to help, and comfort food. We all have that comfort food sometimes, and, you know, it helps for a minute and then you feel worse. And then, it's that cycle that you get into. Um, what was your experience like when you first came on the health program? Like, how did things change for you then?
so um well, I can tell you my experience from whenever I started, because I was also, kind of was a wine drinker. And that
Uh-huh.
was another coping mechanism also. And I didn't do that forever. It just seemed like I picked that up. It kind of even picked it up really after I really started working on a healing journey. And I think maybe that was just an extra thing. I don't know. Um, and so whenever I first started, um, chasing health is what I just say, because I feel like I've progressively just got better. I've never caught up to it. I just progressively just keep getting better. Um, when I first started chasing health, I knew, because I thought if I stayed where I was going to die. I mean, that's just what I thought. And I might have, I don't know, but that's what I thought. And so drinking was not going to be the best for me in my health. And so I said that I'm quitting it all, quitting everything, quitting it all. And I did. But I will tell you that I was so I consumed in my mind over alcohol whenever I first started my journey. In fact, it concerned me because I thought, I've never thought of alcohol like this. And even though I did not partake, I really was struggling with the thoughts. And And so I noticed things like that. And then, I kind of worked through that. And then, but what I noticed was, is every time I put a restriction on myself, now I know I was just gaining health. But at the time, I did not realize that. I thought I was just restricting myself so I wouldn't die.
Yeah.
Every time I was restricting myself, I would do food. Then I was restricting myself from alcohol. And then I wasn't buying clothes all the time like I did. And I was restricting myself from spending frivolously on stuff that I didn't need. And I started cleaning out my closet, and I would find, 4 pair of jeans in the same style, um, two t-shirts and the same. And so I could just see where the excessive behavior was at every level. And so that's kind of what I went through at first. I will tell you, the one thing that I did see is about 2 weeks into, a better program that was fit for me, then I really did have the mindset of, I think, I think I can see myself to the end here. I think I can see myself getting where I need to go. And there's a lot of variables there. I had gone through some freedom ministries before I started my health journey, and I think that I was already changing my mind. And then I just had the tool to actually like just put it into fruition and roll on from there. Um, but I could really tell, and there was some struggles. But then once I got past that, and I started using the tools that I'd learned in some freedom ministries and things like that, then I was able to apply those, and I was doing better, midways. I never really struggled in my health after that until last year in 2023, and I struggled, but there was some triggers. We had a lot of things going on, and my husband worked out of town most of the entire year. And so, I mean, like, I can just only say it brought up triggers of loneliness. I was all alone, and because I have an empty nest. Um, Not abandonment. I don't want to. I don't think that, but I just thought, where's the end going to be here? you know, and and so I struggled a little bit last year, but this year, has been, I worked through some of those things, and I recognized them, and they didn't go away overnight just because I recognized them. They didn't go away. Just it was the process too, and going back through. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. But I want to tell you, the Lord was so good to me in that season, and in the when I was physically losing weight, and it just there was a sweet spot in that season. And I don't even really have the words for it, but it was just a real sweet spot that he was really providing me with relationships and
Mhm.
uh, you know tools and resources that I still use now.
Yeah. And I think that is key. I think you learn so much, and I love that you did that searching when you first started your journey to think, wow, like I can see that excessiveness in this area, and this area. And I think knowledge is power.
Yes,
Because then now you recovered quicker than you would have before. Because you've seen those things. You've seen, you did that hard work. You did that work on yourself. You did the mindset work. And, like you said, like it's a process we go through. We can always, the enemy's always gonna bring back those places and those same fears, those same feelings of loneliness and abandonment, whatever it was that we've dealt with before. Like, he doesn't have any new tools in his belt.
oh
He's
no, he
always
does.
gonna bring back those things that he knows will get us. And so he'll bring those back to us. And so I think, it's so important that the things that you've learned, you were able to recover so much quicker than you would have before. And I think
Yeah.
that's key. It's growing and learning and recognizing it a little quicker. And next time you go through something, I hope it's 20 years down the road, but the next time you're going to recognize it even quicker, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, I know, like I can deal with this so much better this time. And so it's a journey that we're on, and all of it ties in together. So
I do
everything.
I do think, Michelle, too, is when you're going on a journey and you're healing or recovering or maybe want to start something new or whatever it is, like your kids are growing up and you're becoming an empty nester. I mean, like anytime you have a transition in life or anything like that, um, I think I think it's important to, what does Dave Blanchard say? It's important to get there faster and stay there longer. And so just like what you're saying, when you return to that, you're able to, process it better and move on from there, because chances are, if you really have experienced a healing of some sort, you know what that feels like. And to return back to where you were, like I don't want to be arrogant and say that's no option for me because I'm human, but that's not a place that I want to be
Yeah.
ever,
Yeah.
ever
Yeah.
again. And not just the obesity.
Hmm.
I don't want the obesity was just a byproduct.
Hmm.
I want I want all the things that are coming for me and that are, that I need to walk into in due time. And so I want to be the best that I can be so that I can walk in that and be prepared for that. Over prepared.
Yeah.
And so, staying healthy, searching, continuing to learn, continuing to tap into sources, different sources. If one has quit working for you, move on and do something else that will spark your fire
Yeah.
for the Lord. I mean, because that's really that's the source. That's
Yeah.
your source.
Yeah, and I think, if you're not physically healthy and feeling good, that carries over into your spiritual health. You're not going to be good there. If you're not spiritually healthy, it doesn't matter how good you are physically, like you're not going to feel your best. So, it's always striving and getting, all of your health in line, and whatever you have to do to keep all of that in tune. And you know, I know when I started my health journey, I was at a place I didn't know what to do. And I was like, God, I know I did this to myself, but will you please help me? I know that it was my own choices. I know that, but I need you to help me. And, I think when we lay that down on the altar, whatever it is, then he does help us, whether it's, your physical health, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's shopping, whether it's gambling, whatever it is, you lay that on the altar, and God help me with this. And he wants you to be your best. That's why, like you said earlier, John 10:10, the thief comes to steal, kill, and to destroy, but I've come that you might have life and have it abundantly. That's what he wants for us. He doesn't want us bound. He doesn't want us, surrounded in chains. He wants us free and living life to bring glory and honor to him. So, we just have to surrender all of those things, and realize, you may find yourself back at one of those places, but like you said, you've got the knowledge and the tools, and you know what it feels like to be at a free place, and just God will help you get back there. You just have to surrender that to him again.
Yeah, again and again and again. And that's the beauty of the grace and the mercy that he extends to us, is that we can do that
Yeah.
again and again and again. And you know, he loves us that much.
That's right, he does. Well, I am so glad that you joined me today. I know that you have given somebody some hope and encouragement today through your words and your story.
Thank you. Well, you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook, just at Alisha Munden. If you ever have any questions or anything about maybe you do have childhood trauma and maybe you are dealing with some of those things, definitely I would love anybody to message me. And I don't know that I have any kind of educated answer. I can give you some tips and maybe some resources of some things that I used.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, I have 3 questions I like to ask all of my guests. So the first one is, if you could only have one scripture for the rest of your life, what would that one scripture be?
Gosh, that's not fair. Um, well, gosh. Okay, so I would say John 10:10. That is one of my favorite ones. That's not, no, I'm not gonna. There's a scripture in Isaiah, something about I have assumed. Hang on a minute, I have it right here. I have assumed you by name. You are mine. Isaiah 43:1.
I
Yeah.
love that.
I read too many versions. I can't really repeat it all, because one of them will be a whole different version of it. But
Yeah, I combine versions sometimes
yeah.
when I quote it. I generally will quote King James because that's what I grew up on, but then
Yeah.
sometimes I throw in NIV and NLT and I get it all
Yeah.
confused. But, all right, second question. Are you a coffee drinker, a tea drinker, or neither? And how do you take it?
Coffee, 100%. I just got an espresso for Christmas and I love it. And so I usually put about a tablespoon of nut pods in my coffee, or I'll drink it black.
Mm. What's your favorite flavor of nut pods?
The marshmallow one
Okay.
is my favorite, but I always order peppermint mocha at Christmas time.
All
And
right.
it can kind of I fall into the trend.
Spice.
Yes, something. I think there's one, is it caramel cake or something like that?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So I fall into that.
yep. Third question. This is the last one. If you could go anywhere in the world, where would your dream vacation be?
Well, I watched a musical one time, Mamma Mia, and it was filmed in Greece, and it looked like an amazing body of water and piece of land. And so that I would love to go see all the architecture and things like that in Greece. I think it's beautiful.
That's top on my list and
Is
always
it?
have. The
Yeah.
Greek. Yep. My uncle and aunt, when I was a little girl, they would go and hike. And so, it was back then when we had the little slide pictures
Yeah.
and sit around when they lived in Kansas, and when we would go visit them, he would pull out his slide projector, and we'd look at all their pictures.
That is so funny.
Always wanted to go there, so it's top of my list too.
Well, maybe we can go together.
Yeah, sounds like a great plan. Well, thank you, Alicia, again. I'm just super excited to have had you on, and just know that God's going to continue to do great things in you and through you, and I can't wait to watch it happen.
Thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Hope, Health, and Healing. I know that part 2 of Alicia's story has given you hope, it's given you encouragement that God is right there with you, and that He will redeem every part of your story through His great love. Now join me next week as my friend Jody Weiser shares her incredible journey of faith and how God has redeemed her story, how He worked an incredible miracle that could only have been done by Him. Be sure to like and share and follow this podcast. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on Hope, Health, and Healing.